Now, the rest of the story.
All right, good morning. It is 1:35 in the morning, so yeah, good morning. I wasn't planning on doing this. I was planning on being done like 3 hours ago, or let's just say 3 hours from whenever I get done. I had some issues to the point where just kind of nickel and dimed me until I was pushed back later than I really should be. But that basically has been me every single night except one night, or one day, if you want to say that, as far as me doing any of this spring chiseling goes. Spring chiseling for 2019 is winding down. If you guys can see it, when I turn around up here, well, a little bit of the stalks are standing from here up is all I have left, and it's looking like it's only about 3 acres. I'm going to be glad to be done because I want to get the VT onto this 8235 in the morning, because the plan is to put oats in the ground tomorrow. Not all of our oats, but we're going to be putting in all of Dad's oats. Ryan's is going to be a little while yet. Ryan's really, I'm going to say a 4-letter word here. The plan. Plan is a 4-letter word around here, because it's not for certain until things are done. But honestly, the way it's looking, I'm expecting that we won't get Ryan's new seeding in until after we're done planting corn and beans. The reason I say that is because as far as my ground that I wanted chiseled and the ground of my parents that I wanted to at least get chiseled up, that's going to be done here in hopefully another 10 minutes. That's being generous. Within another 30 minutes, my parents and me will at least be done with chisel plowing. My brother has about 5 hours worth that he has to do, and he's kind of holding off on it for demonstration purposes, just basically because he's got plans for it. There I go again saying that P word. But as far as getting Dad's seeding in the ground tomorrow, that is a very good possibility. Oats really don't give you that much issue as far as getting them planted. The big thing is just going to be getting the VT hooked up and taking off and running. And with this setup, all I got to do is just get one of the smaller strips done so Dad can, me or Ryan, I'm not even sure who's going to run this. I would. I think Ryan, no, he said he's going to be here. But I don't know if he's going to help Dad or, I don't know, it's irrelevant. That's how we kind of work around here. Nobody really has a set designated job. I was asked that the other day as far as how do we decide who does what, who works on what, who does what field work. We're to the point anymore where it's not any one person does anything. We all do tillage. We all can plant. You generally see Dad and I radiate towards the planting because Ryan, it's simpler to send Ryan out to work the ground up, because Dad and I, we know what needs to be planted to what beforehand. And it's just how things work. Things aren't that complicated around here. I know some farm operations it really is where this person does this person does this, and this person does this. That used to be how things worked around here. Growing up, it was always Grandpa does this, everybody else does this, and you over here do this. That's just how certain things went. All three of us have the ability to plant, do tillage, do hay work. The only thing that isn't true on for the time being is that semi Big Red, I think is what it is affectionately called anymore. Big Red is Ryan's problem. for the time being. I don't know if Dad is planning on getting behind the wheel of it too much. Myself, I don't have a whole lot of experience driving it. My experience driving that truck are when it was pretty rough. Before Ryan and Dad did all the work they've done to it, I haven't driven that truck yet this year. I haven't driven that truck since they've fixed everything. And according to Ryan, it is, it's a night and day difference is what he says, but the thing is, the saying a night and day difference as far as how that truck drives from last fall to now after they've done all the work. A night and day difference, as an example, I guess doesn't quite cut it because it drives that much better. That truck needed a lot of work, and it was actually probably a good learning experience for Ryan, for Dad. I know I didn't help with the truck very much, but I've talked to Ryan about that, and the thing is, Ryan doesn't care. Ryan wanted to do all the work on that truck. That is his truck. He is the one that's going to be driving it. He's the one that intends to drive it. And that's the best way to learn how to operate a piece of machinery and understand how it works, is to do all the work that Ryan and Dad did to it this winter. Ryan was right there in the thick of it, and he's really good at driving that truck. I've ridden with him to Dubuque. Dad has, Brittany has. I wouldn't be surprised if Mom ends up riding with him for a trip or two, just for the experience. No, I'm not against learning how to drive the truck or hauling grain to Dubuque, but that is probably a role that Ryan is going to assume. So, which is fine. I like working on machinery. I like working on the tractors, the 4640, when we did the water pump and everything else on that. That's the stuff that I enjoy. I don't really shy away from that kind of stuff. That truck, and I know there's probably people that are going to say that, well, if it's on the farm, you need to learn how to work on it, yada, 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 yada. The thing is, that truck didn't interest me in the least. I can definitely appreciate, and I completely understand having that truck here and why we need it here and why it's so important that we have it now, because of just the versatility, and that is going to speed up our harvest. Just having our own semi dedicated to us, yes, it's going to help with corn, but I think helping us get soybeans done, I think that semi is going to help us, and probably to the degree that we really don't fully understand yet, or appreciate yet, as to how nice it's going to be to have that semi, just to be able to load it for the following morning. They say if Ryan can only get a load down there at a time, not because he can't haul more, because Ryan hauled like 3 or 4 loads the other day, but you hear nightmares in the fall when it comes to getting beans delivered. Whew. Where you can almost only get in for 1 load, maybe 2. So between our carts and the semi and the gravity wagon that we got, at least I'm feeling good enough that we have enough storage capacity around, that as long as we have a place to go with it, at least we can keep harvesting beans. That's our biggest problem. Is it's not that our combine can't keep up. It is slated for a bunch of work this summer, so you guys are probably going to be getting some, for the amount of work the combine needs, you guys are probably going to get a combine series on everything that needs to be done to it, from the vertical unloading auger to the bubble up auger, or the grain tank augers, to the feeder house, to the RAS bars. I'm sure you're going to be involved, or at least going to see what's going on. Because I do kind of figure that'll probably be a lot. Well, I'm figuring it's going to be kind of drawn out from July into September. We are going to be busy from here on out. We've been busy, but by the time we get done, well, I really wasn't, on a typical year, I really don't expect to be chisel plowing as much in the spring like I had to this year. This is the most chisel plowing I've had to do in the spring since the year Grandpa died. And that year, I don't know if I had any chiseling done. So, I guess we maybe had, well, we had slightly more done this year than we did even back then. As far as getting done with this tonight, going into seeding, going into planting. Once we get done with planting, getting everything cleaned up, put away. And I don't like getting carried away putting the planter away until I know all the crops are up and out of the ground, because that's burned me twice in the most really recent memory here. And that really is a bummer, having to pull the corn planter back out just to plant for a day. And then have to clean it all back up again like you just did. But once we get done with planting, we're gonna go right into making hay. And sometime in there, we gotta go from making hay to cultivating, side dressing. And then they're gonna be top dressing our corn there in sometime middle of June. And I just think for how busy we're gonna be all the way up until the 4th of July, it'll probably be after 4th of July before we get that combine out and start working on it. And I don't know, that could be a real task. It's gonna get washed again though, get all the dirt and dust and bird feathers off of it from over the winter here. One last thing, because like I said, this is hopefully gonna be the last video that I'm gonna be posting chisel plowing here for 2019, or spring of 2019. This is probably gonna be the last video you see of me in the 82 chiseling. I want to address the question real quick as to why we aren't 5-bottom plowing anymore, why we got away from it, which is Grandpa. We had Dad had nothing to do with it. I had nothing to do with it. Last year when I helped my friend 5-bottom plow, that was the first experience I've ever had plowing. And the thing is, back when, Grandpa used to 5-bottom plow everything he had. But the thing is there was a time frame there where Grandpa was actually picking up farms. He was actually buying farms. And my grandpa was expanding his acres. He was growing. And the problem is with those 5-bottom plows is that they're slow. They're not very efficient. And yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from with that. And Grandpa wanted to go to something that was quicker, that would still do a good job of working the ground up in the fall, and leave you a nice worked up ground so you can go in and get your seed bed prepped in the spring. So what he ended up doing is I think it was Briel's in Fenimore at the time. I mean, they're not around anymore. But he had him bring down a 7-shank Glencoe. And I guess Grandpa ran that for quite a few years. I've never ran that 7-shank. I think Dad has. Dad had a couple stories of chisel plowing with Grandpa's 4230. They weren't very pleasant memories, if memory serves me right. Just because with the 42, you had to make 2 passes on everything. You had to make your first pass to basically break the top of the soil up, and then you had to go over it again and drop the chisel plow down deeper to actually chisel the ground up. to actually do a decent job. Unlike with this machine where I got enough horsepower and weight here, I'm dropping the chisel plow on the ground and, you know, forgetting about it. Yeah, I'm resting my hand here, but and I think honestly, Grandpa went from that 7 shank to a 9 shank, and the reason he did that is simply because he did want to go to something bigger. So Grandpa can sound like us around here every once in a while, or at least he used to. Wanting to go to something a little bit bigger. I don't know if it must have been after he got the 4440, because the chisel plowing was the 4440's job. And then he upgraded to that 9 shank Glencoe, which is the machine, the tool that I was using all the way up until Grandpa was gone. So I didn't mind that Glencoe. Dad didn't like it. He said that it didn't flow really well. It was an extended frame, but Dad said he didn't feel like the stalks would flow through it. He says it plugged too easy. This one would plug really miserable too, but the reason that I'm not using the coulters when I don't have to, I really don't need to use them that much in the spring, just because all the residue kind of broke up during the fall. I don't like running the coulters in the front if I don't have to. If the stalks and everything, I mean, they're pretty brittle as it is, will flow through without using the coulters, because putting those blades down, it still takes horsepower, it still takes fuel. I can definitely feel it on the tractor when I raise and lower those blades up. So I mean, if the tractor will pull easier without having to run those blades, I just soon pull them up, especially when I don't need to run them. Those really shine in the fall when the corn stalks and everything are really fresh and new. It does help the flow through. It does help break up some of the stalks, cut them up, cut up the residue. It's not a cure-all, but it definitely helps. So I'm gonna focus on getting done here, because if you can't tell, my passes are getting awfully short. So I guess you guys can look forward to some VTing and some oat seeding videos here in the next couple days. So with that, I don't know, I'm getting tired if you can't tell. So thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for hanging around. Thanks for riding along. I mean, Calvin does pretty good. I mean, I kind of feel bad for him because he's passed out right now. We were hitting the bumps and he was knocking his head into my foot ear. Didn't really seem to bother him, but you think he'd want to move. All right, I'll talk to you guys tonight.